Good evening, I'm David Nicholas, and next year on CMU Public Television, we sit down with State Representative Joel Johnson from Clare. That's right here on Capitol Report.
Welcome to Capitol Report, a weekly discussion with your elected officials on the issues and concerns that affect you.
Thanks again for being with us. My guest this week was re-elected to a third term to serve the 97th District, and it covers part of Osceola County and runs west through Clare, Gladwin, and into Aranac County. Thank you, Representative Joel Johnson, for coming back to see us. Congratulations on the re-election from November.
Thank you, David. Always good to be here.
2 weeks ago, as we sat down to open up our season, we devoted almost an entire half hour of the first program that we had with House Speaker Kevin Cotter, sorting out all the complexities of the funding proposal, the road funding proposal that's headed to the voters in May. Defined and acknowledged by some as a regressive tax. And as we sit down this week, there is news of a grassroots initiative, just heard about this actually, from a group called Citizens Against Middle Tax Increases. They say that they'll be urging a no vote on the ballot proposal. So as we come back to look at this a little bit more closely again, from your position as an individual lawmaker, what's your view on that measure, how it's been constructed and what it purports as its outcomes, should it pass, and the word that comes from the supporters so far?
Well, David, I have to tell you that I didn't support the bill to put it out for a vote to raise the income tax or to raise the sales tax. I really liked the Speaker's plan and supported that Speaker Bolger had put out that actually came up with the money. It took a little longer, over a 6-year period of time, and still reduced, got rid of the sales tax on fuel and put all the fuel taxes to roads. And so, you know, I supported that plan and did not support the current plan as it came to us. Obviously, the decision now is up to the voters, and we'll work with that in whatever way that they move forward.
What are some of your constituents, what have they been telling you? You're obviously not only a member of the voting public, but also representing the folks in the 97th District. What do they say to you?
Well, there's a lot of concern out there. Most of them would really like to see us do it without raising taxes and fees. Their feeling is that there's an awful lot of people out there that are kind of pushed to the limit right now, and they would much rather see us do everything that we can to make sure that we're spending every dollar as efficiently as we can with our road funding, which both bills get to that to a large extent, and hope that we can continue to make sure and really make sure that every dollar is spent efficiently on our roads. And additionally, though, most people are just a little concerned that they would rather see us find a way to do it without increasing taxes and fees.
The Speaker's plan, the one that did, if I'm correct, this passed the House, did not pass the Senate. Senate had a plan that did not pass in the House. Now, if we were to compare the two of them, the supporters and the Speaker defined it for us last week, saying that this was going to, by the way it was structured, create money that was going to come back into the school aid fund. If we compare that to the House Speaker's plan, there was that question of whether or not we were going to hit some hole in all the myriads of plans we were looking at of having a hole to fill in that school aid fund. How would you say then in defining those two or explaining the two in terms of how roads get X amount, what were the schools going to, if we were to compare those two?
Well, definitely the Speaker's plan made it a little tougher on lawmakers to get the job done. However, part of the reason for making it over a 6-year period of time was because we've had growth over the last 4 years, economic growth that has brought in more revenue. And we have projected growth for that next 6 years that would more than cover the change, and so that the school aid fund and our local governments, that money that's coming from general fund would more than be covered, and hopefully we could continue to increase the funding that they receive to cover additional expenses as time went on. We also had an amendment for the schools that said we couldn't reduce them over that 6-year phase-in. We had the same amendment for local governments. So it really gave them some protection so that they knew that we couldn't use them to balance the budget during that time. That both amendments said if we tried to cut their funding, that we had to go back to the old sales tax on fuel formula to get the job done until we figured out something else.
Then, if I understand them, the money in the end would basically come out equal, and by that I guess I'm leading to the question of the reaction then from the folks in the school districts, because that and for that matter for the local government funding, both of those being the ones who had so much potentially to gain or lose as these proposals were being sorted out. Have they now had any reaction coming to you saying we really liked the prior plan from the speaker from last year better, or yeah, this ballot proposal is okay? I mean, you said voters in general are saying that they're strapped and they don't favor the tax increase, but when we look at those particular interests who were going to be relying so much on potential funding coming out of these proposals, what do they say, either the folks in the schools or the local municipalities?
Yeah, well, we have some on both sides in both of those groups. However, I would say that the majority in the schools support the new plan. They were a little fearful. Their experience hasn't been good with lawmakers and getting their budget everywhere that they would like it to be. And so they were a little fearful of that. And so they liked the new plan that would bring about more guaranteed funding for them without having to rely on growth. And the local governments, I believe I've had more on the local government side that supported the speaker's plan than the current plan. So it's kind of a
debate
mix
is
there.
still out
It's
there,
a mix
certainly,
there.
yeah.
It is.
As we sit down today, the speaker now has presented a list of priorities for House Republicans for the 2-year term. Again, from your position as one of the members of that caucus, do you agree with the list and the priority order in which it's been laid out?
Well, the order is not necessarily in order of priority, the way that it's been laid out. They're all important, and I can't say that I will support every single issue that comes forward, but as a group, most of the people have supported those issues there, and I think it's a good piece of work for us to bring about to people, and it, as the speaker said yesterday, it really puts us in a position of saying, well, here's what we said we were going to do, here's what we've done. Promises made, promises kept, you might say. And without that, you know, it'd be really easy to come back later and say, well, you know, everything we had in mind, we got done. Well, without something to judge that by, people don't really know whether that's true or not. So this document is available to everyone, and I think it really helps us set a tone. Now, each of us have additions to that, but they're not necessarily caucus-wide priorities. And so individuals will have priorities that we'll be working on as well. But I think overall, it's a very good list of things that we need to be able to say we accomplished here in a couple of years.
Well, to that end, as we noted, you were reelected to a 3rd term in November. What would you say are the new priorities, or even on that list of things that you're coming into this new session with, of what you might label as unfinished business from the first term's bills that didn't gain quite enough traction to get through in a prior session or two? What's on the individual list for Representative Joel Johnson?
I've got several things, and you know, one of the big issues that we had that we thought we were going to have taken care of is the ability for corrections officers and retired corrections officers to be on the list of folks who are exempt from pistol-free zones. These people have a lot of face time with a lot of pretty tough customers. And to put them in a situation where they are in a pistol-free area, even though they've had extra training that the state gives them in addition, along with our other police officers, they right now cannot legally carry a pistol in a pistol-free zone. And many of them have told me that they've had multiple threats. They've had situations that could have ended up much worse. And this is something that just needs to be done. So
early on in the term, certainly, but with some of the new faces and the turnover from last November's election, do you think there may be additional votes if you're able to bring this up and get it reintroduced, that might have wider support than it did before?
Yeah, we had no problem passing it in the House. I don't think there'll be any issues there, and the main thing is making sure that it's a priority to get it all the way through the system. We had some folks in the bill that hadn't necessarily had as much training as our corrections officers, and that was part of the consternation, and that's been changed now. So I think that'll work out pretty well for us.
Major priority from the governor is to put it simply, training a skilled workforce to meet a changing economy. And to that end, the Speaker has created a Workforce and Talent Development Committee, and you have been appointed its chair. Tell us about that and what we might expect for this new entity.
This is very exciting for me. We know that there are a lot of jobs out there, particularly skilled trades jobs, agricultural jobs, where the employees just can't be found with the skills that need to be there. So our charge is to turn over all the rocks and look at things that are being done well, expand on those, look at things that are not being done so well or that are barriers, remove those barriers, and to bring about full employment. We've been having people come in and talk to us. We had our ISD come in and talk about some of the things they are doing, some of the barriers that they are finding, and some solutions suggested there. We've also had our Mid-Michigan Community College come in and talk about some of the same issues. And we've started now with business groups, and they've come in and talk about their needs, talk about some of the barriers that they've seen as well. And so, we did a lot of work with Michigan Merit Curriculum and got some changes there last year for flexibility for our high schoolers to be able to take skilled trades programs in high school. But that's just the beginning. And so it's kind of a focus on P20, helping our younger students realize that a lot of these skilled trades jobs are excellent careers, along with educating their parents that that's the case as well. And then additionally, we need to work with our military as they're returning, making sure that they're ready for all the opportunities that are there. And a lot of steps have been taken in that direction as well. And then we need to look at our under and unemployed folks and see what kind of barriers are there. Today, particularly with single-parent households, there's a lot of barriers that we really need to find a way to address. Additionally, parolees coming out of prison need to have some skills that will help them to be a valued employee. Without those skills, much better chance that they're going to end up back where they came from, and we don't want to see that. So I see this as the door being wide open, and I think that the fact that the governor has put in motion the brand new department to really work on this, and another agency, it shows that it's important to him. And I think a lot of these barriers are going to be taken down.
Where do we stand for the effort that you've been as loud a voice in support of as any we've spoken to, many discussions we've had about those changes to curriculum? Is it been modified now or restructured in a way that you think addresses all of these needs? Or if we look at some of these traditional skilled trade positions and also the idea of training or having some opportunities at that K-12 level towards some of these newer types of opportunities when it comes to the workforce. Is all the work done, or do we still have some fine-tuning to do?
We'll have some fine-tuning. The main thing that we've done is to bring about some flexibility in the Michigan Merit curriculum so that students will have time in their schedules to be able to do this and still meet all the requirements for graduation. To make sure that the right opportunities are there for our students. And you know, one of the things that the governor has indicated is he wants to make sure that our high schools, community colleges, and trade schools and universities are all working together. And you know, there's some steps that we need to take there. One of the issues brought up with our ISDs and our career tech training for our high schoolers is that some of the areas that we want to focus on are very ill represented as far as teachers, certified teachers in those areas. And right now, for high school teachers, there's less flexibility for certifications than there is at the college level. And so that's a barrier that we need to look at, and we are going to be working on that too.
When school funding was at one point, the issue that it was and the real downturn in Michigan's economy, were any of these voc tech programs more or less mothballed and teachers laid off? I mean, do we have some catch-up work to kind of re-bolster, re-backfill that whole system and foundation there? Absolutely. We had shops that were totally cleared out, and now they're a study hall or a computer lab, and that's a concern. So we need to look at ways that we can help bring those about. We need to work with industry and make sure that our education is demand-driven in this area. Some of the trades that might be more glamorous may not have as much demand for those people as some of the ones that are maybe a little less glamorous. But so we need to adjust there. But you know, in some cases, some of the individual schools will do more to bring back some of those programs. In other cases, they will continue to rely upon and grow their usage of the ISD training programs. Now you mentioned that when we were talking about the schools, you also mentioned the community colleges, and we have seen in past administrations too, where there's been a sudden influx of cash because they have sometimes a little bit more flexibility than even the four-year schools of creating some programs more in a hurry or developing something a little bit more to address a workforce need. Also in the group or at the table is Michigan Works, the agencies that are charged with handling the unemployment and also the job training programs. Do they have a continuing role, because their model is being somewhat changed with the creation of the so-called prosperity zones? So you mentioned a partnership. Will it really be, in terms of funding and support and overall backing from the administration, everybody kind of on an equal footing? K-12 schools, community colleges, four-year universities, Michigan Works, and any other players there, are they all seen as having an equal part to play? Well, that's my vision of it. And, it's as we met the first time, my indication was, this is not a political committee. This is a problem-solving committee. It's something that we're all dealing with, and we all want to find answers. And I think that same thing's going to be true with these groups. We really need to work together and put everybody on an equal footing and get the job done. And I've seen really good things happening with all these groups. And the situation is that many times in one particular group or installation of these groups is doing a better job here than they are there. So let's make sure that we're implementing the best
the best practices that we can in each group.
Back to a note on the schools, and I think this kind of is another message to kind of look at. The Department of Education recently recognized 4 Michigan schools for what they're calling an Excellence in Practice Award for efforts to both, quote, prepare students for careers and higher education. Included in that list, Muskegon, Traverse City, Wexford, Missaukee, and also Bay Aranac Intermediate School District. Bay Aranac for engineering and drafting, Wexford Missaukee, which touches into your district too, for a girls in STEM program and a STEM camp for 8th through 10th graders. It's fairly recent news coming out from Department of Ed, but what's your initial reaction to the efforts that at least some corners of this K-12 effort where some of these things may be reflecting where the economy is headed?
Yeah. Well, I think it's great. I think that they're being recognized for efforts that are important, and I'm really happy to see that. As I've visited these locations, I know that they're doing a good job, and in some cases there's more demand for spaces than what's available. And some of our ISDs are just doing everything that they can to get everybody in and managing it. But it's, you know, one of the big things is to make sure that the students are aware of the programs that are out there. And I think publicizing these awards might help with that. And I think it's great that they're concentrating on some areas that are really important. And the idea of helping some of the girls get involved in the STEM areas is a good idea and something that could be expanded on as well. We've had several of our other schools being recognized. Just recently, Augrey Sims was recognized for their great work too. So happy to see that.
Oh, we have just a couple of minutes left, and we've been focusing in on especially this new committee and your chairmanship thereof. Other committee assignments that you have moving forward in this include Commerce and Trade, the Agriculture and Judiciary committees. In the midst of everything getting up and running for this session, anything you'd point to in our last few moments that you see as major initiatives coming from those?
Well, you know, I think that, and whether or not this will go to those committees, Commerce and Trade might have some work to do here, but it's probably going to go to local governments or some other places. But one of the big issues that I think that we continue to have to work on is to make sure that all of our departments are treating our constituents with the utmost of respect and taking care of their issues in a quick and timely manner. Too many times we see folks that are waiting months upon months for answers or for licensure where, you know, it should just happen. And so that's one of the big issues that I hope that we can address this time.
And when it comes to agriculture, we know that the representatives from the Farm Bureau have been back out, the new head of the MFB, visiting folks in Washington, the congressional delegation to sort of get up to speed and how the state effort will interface with the overall federal farm bill and the like from that agriculture. Because it is such a huge industry, what might we expect there?
There are tremendous things happening with agriculture. They have really increased the amount of product that's being raised in Michigan, and it's not only is it used here, but it's used throughout the country and throughout the world, and so that's exciting. We have something new that's going to take place here, and that's we've been talking about increasing agricultural processing, and we have a large pork processing plant that's going to be going in the Coldwater area. And that's excellent news for our pork producers, and that's going to be a game changer for us.
And when it comes to judiciary, I don't know that there would necessarily be an extension in our final minute here, but when we look at the judicial process overall and the court system, everybody's got their eyes kind of fixed towards what will come from the U.S. Supreme Court when it comes to the same-sex marriage status. Any role that judiciary will have perhaps in further defining anything from a legislative point of view on this or maybe related issues at all?
On that issue, I don't see anything that will have to do with that. It's pretty much going to be up to the Supreme Court. And our, what we work on in Judiciary is pretty much state items, and that's something we're not going to have any control over.
Well, both then at the state and obviously that at the federal level, there will be a lot happening in the weeks and months to come. Always good to have guests that are able to join us in the midst of the busy schedules. Good to see you again, and we appreciate your time coming back to Capitol Report.
Thank you, David. Appreciate it.
And thank you for being here. Thank you as well for joining us here on the program this week. A reminder that we do have the programs, at least some of these in a repeat, and this is one of those that you'll have a chance to catch again this coming Saturday, the 21st. That will be at 6:30. We'll also be posting the programs to our website, and that is WCMU.org. Click on TV, and then the link for Capitol Report where the programs go up during our current season. For all of us here in the technical crew, I'm David Nicholas. Thanks again for your time and attention, and we'll talk again.
You've been watching Capitol Report. Join us again as your elected officials speak to your concerns on current issues.